Hi to all audience members, or in this case, viewers of MSAT 2020. My name is Onat Ege Adalı. People usually refer to me as Ege. I am a PhD student in Information Systems Group of Eindhoven University of Technology, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about our paper titled A Multi-Concern Method for Identifying Business Services, a Situational Method Engineering Study. Further ado, let me start. In the contemporary business environment, we see that services have become the fundamental basis of exchange. And by services, we're not just talking about traditional ones, such as healthcare, insurance, banking, or even IT, but we're also talking about disruptive and globalized services, which are usually known by the names of the companies that provide them. Some examples of such services can be given as Netflix with its movie streaming services, Spotify with its music production and music streaming services, and Bitcoin with its digital currency related services. Due to this dominance of services in global markets, some scholars describe the economy or even the world that we're currently living in as a service society. In that context, the lens or the perspective for understanding value creation and marketing, service dominant logic, proposes 11 foundational premises that describe the inner workings of the service society. And for the purposes of this presentation, I would like to shine a light on two of these premises, which are explicitly about resources. And the first premise in that case goes on to declare that resources are the fundamental source of competitive advantage. And the second one uses resources to abstract away all social and economic actors as resource integrators. With these resource-related premises of service-dominant logic in mind, I want you to take a look at the figure that you see on the left side of your screen. And this figure represents the resource constellation of a gold milk producer. And what I want to emphasize with this figure is the complexity of resources behind such a simple product as goat milk. And if we would transform this business, this product-oriented business, into a service business, we would have a problem, a major problem in terms of development of customer-centric models of resources. In other words, identification of service offerings of this business. And the solution to that problem might cross from the business services paradigm, which is all about focusing the enterprise modeling activity on the service offerings that an organization provides to its external parties. These can be customers, partners, or suppliers. And this paradigm proposes an operational modeling construct, which is called the business service concept, that supports design, representation, and analysis of service offerings that might be required for a business. And in this context, a single realized business service refers to a significant chunk of operations that represents results or outcomes to the external parties or to the customer of the provider in question. And there's one more thing that the business services paradigm uses, that is service identification methods. And these are procedures to guide organizations in finding what business services to have or to provide. You can see them as the realization mechanism to realize a business services paradigm, to create realized business services. And these procedures usually focus on a key business artifact, such as business processes or strategic goals of the organization. And they analyze these key business artifacts to deduce business services for the organization in question. And in summary, the business services paradigm is all about abstracting away the complexity of resources under carefully identified business services that an organization provides to its external parties. However, the business services paradigm is not without its problems, of course, and the problems stem from the business service concept and service identification methods themselves. In terms of the business service concept, the concept the concept incorporates some business service design concerns which I will refer to as business service concerns for the rest of the presentation. And these concerns represent or describe how an ideal business service should be like. The problem with these concerns is that, according to the context that the business service concept introduced in, the number and the content of these concerns change. They differ. So, in one context, you have two concerns that describe an ideal business service, and in the other one, you have completely different three concerns that describe the same thing. So, in this case, we have a lack of clarity in terms of the business service concerns incorporated under the business service concept. And when we look at the service identification methods, we see that first problem relates to the initial problem with the business service concept, because we see that there is no consensus on how to address multiple business service design concerns in a systematic way. And when we look at the methods, actually, we see that each method proposes a distinct procedure, a distinct technique to identify business services, and each technique refers to a different set of business service concerns. And the second problem with service identification methods is that they don't align well with the contemporary views of marketing, especially service dominant logic and value co-creation. And this issue impedes their usability for the organizations want to use them for identifying their business services. Addressing or recognizing these problems, we developed our study objective to be the development of a multi-concern business service identification method, which we abbreviate as MCBSAM, that covers a wider and more comprehensive selection of business service concerns. And apart from that, aligns with the most contemporary views on marketing, specifically with value co-creation. And on this slide, you see the overview of our study. For the general study, we followed a design science research approach. And in that approach, we had two cycles. One cycle dedicated for clarification of the business service concerns, and the second cycle was dedicated to identification of business service identification methods that are already there in the literature. And in the first cycle, we conducted a literature review by means of the snowballing technique, and we gathered business service definitions from different domains, and we created a comprehensive and integrated set of business service concerns. To be precise, we created a set of 11 business service concerns. And we moved on to the second cycle, and there we conducted a systematic literature review on the service identification methods to find out the methods that specifically focus on business service identification. And we used the concerns that we identified in the previous cycle to analyze the identified methods to see which concerns that they address and how they address these concerns by means of which techniques, which method chunks. And we then moved on to the development of the method with the information that we obtained from the systematic literature review, and then we applied the method on an illustrative business case. And the focus of our paper, of our MSAT paper, is actually on the development of the method and the application of the method. So I will go through the development of the method in this presentation. And for the development of the method, we used a situational method engineering approach. And in that sense, we first defined the context, the situation that we want to use the method in. So for our case, it was a service provider pursuing the development of a unique and new value proposition in a business network, which consists of customer and the parties required to make that value proposition. And after the definition of the context, we created a method base by selecting the methods that we identified in our systematic literature review and selecting the methods that actually align, that actually recognize a service provider in a business network. And this ended up with selection of 16 business service identification methods. And then after that, we created a requirements map, which we considered as the skeleton of our method. And we based that on the most comprehensive method that we had in terms of addressing business service concerns and aligning with service dominant logic, of course. And for that, we use a process driven strategy. And after creation of the requirements map, we selected method chunks based on this ultimate goal of covering the most amount of business service concerns with the least amount of method chunks. And we selected 3 method chunks in that case. And then in the end, we assembled our method chunks by bridging their input and output products together by following the association strategy. And in the end of the situational method engineering approach, we created our method. On this slide, you see the high-level steps of our method. The method starts by taking a new value proposition idea that the service provider wants to make as an input. And then it goes on to model the business network of the proposed value proposition idea. And it models this network in terms of goals and means. And then after defining goals and means for each partner, each party, and the business network, it turns its head to the service provider, which is the main party that is the generator of the value proposition. And then we capture the core capabilities for that party. And by core capabilities, we mean the capabilities that enable the service provider to achieve the goals and means defined for it. And sometimes, in some cases, these capabilities are not organized in a good way. They are separated from each other, and this results in inefficiencies for organizations. And for that case, we reorganized these capabilities into cohesive capabilities, which constituted the basis for business services. That is the objective of the third step. And in the fourth phase, we created business service specifications based on the core capabilities that we gathered. And the result of the method is business service specifications. And this brings me to the final slide of my presentation. In this work, we constructed a method that identifies business services that internalizes the ideal business service concept in terms of the business service concerns, and it recognizes, it aligns, it identifies business services for a service provider in the situation of making a new value proposition to a business network, which completely fits the contemporary views on marketing right now. Furthermore, I couldn't cover this in my presentation due to time limitation, but we demonstrated the method with an illustrative scenario based on a real life business case. And this scenario, this demonstration allowed us to see that our method recognizes and leverages the business service concept, better than previously proposed methods. And the method takes the central theme of service dominant logic, value co-creation, as its context, and better aligns with it compared to the other service identification methods that are in the literature. I designed this presentation to be a teaser for our paper. That's why I couldn't cover the demonstration, for example. However, I would like to invite interested readers to take a look at our paper to see more details about everything that I told in this video, but also more. And I would like to thank you for your time, and I will be answering your questions in the conference session. And thank you.